Hello there, and welcome to the Impact Zone podcast. We are back once more again to talk more TNA wrestling shenanigans, and today we are discussing becoming a big fish, becoming a big deal, becoming a main eventer. Not everyone can do it, and this is one of those things that you've kind of got to accept. Not everyone can get there, and certainly some people don't get there, and it feels like, wow, they really missed the boat on that person. But it's this sort of problem where not everyone can get there, not everyone can get to that top space. The more people that you try to push into that top level, the shorter and more discombobulated sort of the top area sort of does become, and it makes all of what happens less and less important and less impactful at the top. And not everyone can hold a belt. If everyone held a belt, then those belts wouldn't mean anything. And if everyone was special, no one would be special effectively. It's just one of those things. And certainly, like, WWE has missed out on pushing a lot of talent. They really missed out on pushing Dolph Ziggler. They missed out on pushing Rusev. They missed out on pushing a lot of talent in the last few years. They missed out on Zack Ryder. They've missed out on a lot of guys that have gone on to do bigger and better things post WWE. Look at Nick Nemeth. He's done a lot of great stuff in TNA, in New Japan, in AAA, and on the Indies and whatnot. Look at Matt Cardona, same sort of thing. He's done a lot of good stuff here and there, mostly on the Indies. Rusev really hasn't, unfortunately, done a whole lot as of yet, whatnot. But still, like, I think that AEW again have missed the boat with him. But again, like. And you look at other people, like perhaps John Cena or whoever, and perhaps they had too many runs here and there and too much significance put on them, when some other people did deserve to get the rub, or get some time at the top, or get some time in that position, or building towards that position, because it is a dynamic field that should always be moving, and should, like, if you have one or two really major guys that are around for a longer period of time, like John Cena, and they pop back in and out every now and again, that will make them feel a lot more special and a lot more impactful, and a lot less of this sort of feeling like they're sort of being too dominant in the division, and sort of like no one else really gets a crack at the title and whatnot. Though some people, it does feel like, is this person ready, or aren't they ready? And sometimes it does feel like, well, perhaps they're not, quite ready for it, in the character isn't right, or they were pushed too soon, or whatever it was. I think even like Jack Swagger, he was like missed on, like, again, perhaps at certain times he was pushed too hard and whatnot. But I think, like, they certainly could have done more with him. Look at Sheamus. Like, I know he's held the title a couple of times, but really they haven't really ever made the most out of his runs, especially like his first run. He was more or less just a transitional champion between Orton and Cena. But like, it is one of those things. It's the problem of, I think, now that it does feel like, the internet wrestling fandom sometimes comes up and complains about some of these guys not getting their dues. And unfortunately, WWE has been sort of a problem for doing this, where they don't really invest a whole lot in their like mid-card or lower card sort of feuds or whatever else, and they sometimes don't even invest a whole lot in their main card, like world title feuds or whatever else, or they treat the world title or the main title as being a secondary title, or even a tertiary title, or even a lower card title at times, or even a nothing title at times. And then a few weeks later they're trying to say how important this title is, when they were just treating whoever it was and whatever it was doing as real trash. And that's how you lose people in their faith or in their sort of suspension of disbelief or whatever else it is to, believe how important and how sort of impactful the title is. And certainly you can, like looking at Brock Lesnar, I think, and his title run when he was away and whatnot, and you almost forgot that the title even existed. But when he was around for a few weeks here and there, it was a really important title because suddenly, it's a really rare event to see the champion or whatever else it is. Making sure that people are aware of the championship or the champion and whatnot, and making sure that that title is, visible, I think is the thing that they sort of slipped up there with, like making sure that everyone is, going ahead and going along and saying, hey, I need to try to beat Brock, I need to try to beat the champion, I need to be the best. Everyone needs that, should be needing that title, and the fact that Brock Lesnar isn't there or whatever else should be fuel to the fire, so to speak, of saying, well, he's never here, and it certainly was at certain times as well, but it should have been more prevalent, and it should have been a constant thing of, like, we've got to get this, fighting champion back, sort of thing. We've got to have somebody here that's going to defend it every few months or whatever it is, at least every 30 days, not every 6 months or maybe once every blue moon or whatever it is, or once from 9 months later, and then and again, just like WrestleMania season or whatever it is, kind of defenses or big shows. You can do big things at big shows, but you need to do things at smaller shows too. Some of those smaller things can be people can tune out to those things, like somebody else who's not the absolute top challenger, challenging somebody. It's like, oh, well, we pretty much know they're not going to win it because, they haven't really been in this position very much, or they're just getting in here or whatever else it is, especially younger talent or, talent that sort of have been relegated to jobber to the stars status kind of thing. Unfortunately, probably they're not going to win it, and it's sort of on a B show or whatever else it is. So it's like, well, the expectations aren't there, so less people are just going to tune in. It's not a bigger show, it's not going to be as exciting or as interesting, or people aren't going to be as invested. So of course people, it's going to be a lesser show, and people need to realize that. And sometimes some of those feuds can be lesser than some of the other feuds or whatever else it is, like some of the top tier feuds, because of the level of investment, let alone that people have in them. You can tell the same sort of story with somebody, but if they're more of a fixture of that main event, then it will feel a lot more impactful and a lot more big time, because hey, we know this guy, doesn't really lose that often, and he might even win the title. Like they've put the title on him before or whatever it is, like John Cena. He might not have the title all the time, but we know he's pretty much the top guy in the company. And you don't need to have your top guy in the company be the champion literally all the time, but having him or her or whatever it is in that upper card area is, the best thing for business, because you can't be like, well, again, having them be the champion all the time, because otherwise the neck becomes, where's the chase, where's the hunt, where's the story, where's the drama, where's the build to them, getting the title back or whatever else it is. If they're just the most dominant champion, then again, where's the investment from the fans, sort of thing. You've got to have that investment from the fans to see this person or that person or whoever it is, Daniel Bryan or, Joe Hendry or whoever it is, and you've got to have that sort of build to that position. You have a lot of people that, it takes a long time to elevate somebody to that position, and you see them in their early days sometimes getting these shots that they perhaps, aren't going to win, but it's nice to see sort of that they're getting these opportunities sometimes, and that you'd probably know, oh, well, they're not going to probably win it, but it'd be nice if they kept, them in this sort of position or kept them strong or kept them like looking good, or did more with them and this sort of thing. Because if you continue to do that, you're continuing to say to the people, hey, this person should be invested in, you should be watching them because they might just win the title one of these days, type thing. And not everyone can do that, unfortunately. You need your guys to help, some guys to help elevate other guys. You have to have effectively your jobbers to the stars, effectively, or whatever else it is. Because without those guys sitting there and doing the work for some of these other guys, they don't get to be in a higher position, or they don't get to bring it to another level. I think The Rock and Mick Foley's feud, I don't think really Mick ever really felt like he was the guy. I think that he got elevated into that upper card at that time, and he suddenly won the title a couple of times, but he was never really the guy, and it was a couple of heartwarming moments or whatever else, and that was good and whatnot for what it was, and he had a good run there for a while doing stuff and whatnot. But again, I do feel like that there was a sort of a disconnect of some sorts there in some regards, that people didn't really get to see him as the top guy. The Rock was the up and coming star. He needed to be legitimized. Mick Foley helped him become legitimized. He was the jobber to the stars, but he still was a somewhat major player, and he still did some major work. And this again is like that problem of people and WWE, where they sort of only equate the world title or the main title or whatever it is to sometimes being the only prize worth gaining. The other prizes are there and they are worth gaining, and maybe the world title or whatever is the most prestigious title, but you've got to be there to be doing other things. You've got to be in there to elevate yourself no matter what level you're on. You've got to, if you're on the bottom level or whatever else it is, you're obviously not. But again, you've got to be trying to elevate that division and elevate yourself within that division. If you're in that, if you're the X Division champion or the Cruiserweight champion, or you're the Intercontinental champion or the Digital Media champion or whatever else it is, you're trying to elevate yourself and trying to elevate the division so that you can be looked at as a future star in the making, as a guy that will be a dependable hand. And it is one of those problems that I guess like people have that ADHD kind of problem. That problem of, wanting things here and now. They don't really, like, people want a story told to them in a way, but once they want something, they want it here and now. Give it to me here and now. They don't really, they think that if they aren't given it, that you're missing the boat, or you're not pulling the trigger is like bad, or is detrimental, or whatever else it is. I think certainly if you're not building a story and you're not building a narrative, and people are falling off of, that building of that narrative, then they honestly didn't want to see this person for a long period of time. They just wanted to have that instant gratification because they felt like, oh, this wrestler's over and whatnot and whatnot. So let's give him the belt right here, right now. And if you don't give him the belt right here, right now, then I'm going to tune out and not be interested anymore. Like, if you have those people that are doing that and that sort of thing, then that's no good, because you need to have that investment long term. And being 6 months or whatever of like, yes, this is what we want. Yes, this is what we want. Please give us this, is not honestly a very long term sort of thing, but it is a fairly long term sort of thing. It proves to people that this is not just a flash in the pan or a hot moment or whatever else it is. It's, people realize this is going to stick and this is going to be around for a while, and this person is going to be important, and not just, oh, well, we'll give them the belt because people want them, to have the belt or whatever else it is. But then people are going to tune out because, like, well, okay, you've given them the belt and I wasn't really that invested, and see you bye, because that you didn't really tell a good enough story. So you've got to balance these things out of saying, well, we need to give a story, we need to give reasons, we need to give a build, blah, 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 and we need to make people invest long term, not just go, oh, well, they've done the thing, now I can tune out, and not tune back in for a few months or whatever it is or whatnot. And yeah, like, is it, really just that thing of saying, oh, this person became the champion, like Daniel Bryan or, Joe Hendry or whoever it is, they became the champion, huzzah. And then it's like, okay, cool, well, now I'm going to tune out for however long, or whatever it is, unless, who else am I interested in being, at the top or, pushing, whatever else it is. It's like, it's very much like you need to be like, nah, man, what else am I invested in? I'm still invested in Joe Hendry, or I'm still invested in, whoever it is. They finally won the belt, and I'm going to sit here and enjoy it, and I'm going to see what their title run is and how it develops and whatnot and what they do with it, because, I've been waiting for so long to see them hold this belt, so now I've got to see what they do with it, not just go, oh, well, now they've got it, now the investment's over, I know that they've got it. Maybe I don't know what they'll do with it. Do I care? Well, obviously, if you say, oh, well, I don't care and I'm going to tune out, then you didn't really care about them winning it in the first place, honestly and truly, because again, where is your investment for going on after that? And that's what they're trying to always determine, whether like, this is just like, oh, this is a quick reaction that people have had, and then this is kind of what people might want, but is there any actual investment? Is this going to last 6 months? Is this going to last a year? Is this going to last 2 years? Whatever else it is. We don't want to just pull the trigger and then people go, oh, okay, cool, you pulled the trigger. Thank you very much for pulling the trigger for us. And then we're going to tune out, because now we haven't got anything else to invest in, But that's what you've got to do. You've always got to give them something else to invest in, kind of thing, or something for their hero or whoever they just had as, their star, what are they going to go up against? They've got to go up against something so that people go, holy crap, they just won the belt and now they've got to face all this and all this stuff, and they've got to go through all these people, and they've got to watch their back and blah, 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 and all this stuff and whatever else. And, oh my God, this guy, who just came into the, whatever else is killing everyone effectively or whatever else, just slamming people through the mat and whatever else, whatever it is, or, like Khan breaking people's necks effectively or whatever it is. Like, this guy's being presented as a monster. Oh my God, he's going to go after Joe Hendry. He's going to take the title or whatever it is, like, again, whoever it is, like, how's Joe going to overcome this? Whatever, all that sort of stuff. You need to keep giving them things to invest in, reasons to tune in, But again, like, if people aren't going to tune in, even if you're giving them those things, then it's like, well, we're doing all we can, like, we're giving you reasons to tune in and good things to see if you do tune in. But if you're not tuning in, well, what more can we do to an extent? At a certain point, some people will or won't tune in, even though they've been, clamoring for something for months or for years or whatever it is. So, but again, not everyone can do that, and like, having a fresh start or having a new fresh person come along is good, because again, it refreshes that whole, like, scene. Like, if you have this scene that is stagnant and stagnating, then it's like, well, again, you need to freshen it up. And again, not everyone can be Kurt Angle or can be John Cena or can be, whatever it is and whatnot. You've got to have these people feel like, man, every time there's something else that, we could be invested in, or that they have invested in, or, is feeling like, oh man, this new young person's coming along, maybe they're going to get there, like Leon Slater, to point to him, because he's, young and up and coming. He could be the next X Division champion. I don't know. Like, I'd like to see him become the next X Division champion, but they're taking a sort of a slow build with him, which is good. Again, getting people to invest long term, giving everyone time to kind of feel like, man, this guy deserves it, this guy's earned it, whatever else, and we're going to be invested, and we want to see where this goes, not just once he wins it, but once he, or one, up to when he wins it, to after when he wins it, and when he holds it, and going on from there for 6 months. And then there's somebody else or something else coming along that we're going, oh man, what's going to happen with this, or what's going to happen with that, or what are they going to do? How are they going to change, the complexion of everything that's going on? So keeping that level of interest among the people is always like the key to like these sorts of things. Like when you have these, superstars or whatever else it is come through, you're always going, well, yeah, we've got Joe Hendry or whatever else it is, and then, okay, what are we going to do with Joe Hendry? Well, we've got to find some monster heels for him to fight or whatever else it is. Like, or we've got this monster heel, so we've got to find some great sympathetic baby faces for him to, tear through, but also feel somewhat legitimate, like not that they're just going to get their head ripped off or whatever else it is, or just like jobbed out effectively, but look good and feel like, like Gunther, like, he's that sort of monsterish heel, and he's sort of, some people sort of look really good against, like even though they lose in a catastrophic way or whatever else it is. But yeah, no, I think that the level of care from the fans sometimes when it's in the arenas and whatnot is sometimes lower than what it is like online. Like, people seem to want to go out there and complain online and whatnot, and perhaps that's the vocal minority or whatever of people or whatever. But again, it seems like these people go out there to complain online, but they don't, when they're in the arena, they don't, sit there and chant or do anything or try to help, or, have those conversations or even say things online to say, hey, we really want to see this guy, instead of just complaining, hey, we'd like to see you do more, and we'd like to see you get that belt or whatever else it is. I'm going to buy a ticket for next week. I'm going to buy a ticket for next month. I hope to see you, being, up there. I want to see you return, whatever else it is. If somebody's injured, blah, 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 all this sort of thing. So you've got to have that perspective of people like are invested as well. So yeah, but it's always that sort of difficult border to sort of cross sometimes, especially when you've got a heel or whatever else it is. But like, it is that thing where it's like, well, you've got to have people invested not in the heel per se, you've got to have them invested in the hunt for one of these baby faces that's going to beat them. And then once the baby faces like got the championship, it's not like time to relax or whatever. It's like, here's this killer heel, here's this other killer heel, here's this other person, or whatever else it is that's going to come after their belt, and how are they going to hold on to it? Because now they've got all these people that are gunning for them or whatever it is. So yeah, you're having those wrestlers that feel like, oh man, this guy, like Santana or like Steve Macklin, it's like, these guys, they're top guys, they've won, and they're looking like they're at the top of sort of at the top of the division in some ways, because they've beaten so many people. But yet they're not in that position quite, because again, Joe Hendry is the main babyface. So it's like, well, we can't have these babyfaces and him going up against each other. It makes no sense unless we're going to do something a bit different with them, or we're going to turn them heel or something like that, because there's no real great story there between these two baby faces or whatever. So we've got to give these other guys something else to work with, and we've also got to give Joe something to work with, or whoever it is. Again, like, you've got to give everyone something to work with, and we've got to bring it, if we're bringing in this heel, well, we've got to give them 3 or 4 or 5 opponents to work with, especially major opponents, not just, more minor opponents, or whatever else it is. But yeah, you've got to have those minor opponents as well. You've got to have those opponents that do feel like, oh, well, this is, going to be an easy one, or easily done, or whatever else. And sometimes you should have those ones that feel like, oh yeah, this is going to be an easy one, or it's going to be over in 5 minutes, or whatever it is, or it's not going to be much of a thing, or whatever it is. But then it surprises you by having somebody put in that stellar performance and, break out, and that sort of thing, or at least try to have somebody break out. If somebody breaks out, they break out, in a sense. Like, you can't control what the audience will or won't react to sometimes, but when you do have some of these things, they usually do go, oh wow, especially if it's been set up to be like, oh man, this guy's going to kill this guy in like 5 minutes or whatever else, And then you find that, man, this guy keeps holding on and keeps holding on, he keeps fighting back, and he keeps coming, yeah, look, come on, kid, let's see what you can do. We want to see it, and like, even if it's impossible, we want to see you try and beat this guy, whatever it is, like, that's great. And again, like, that's what people should have. People should have that level of investment, not just when they're online and complaining or whatever else it is, but they should have that investment while they're in the arenas and whatnot, not just sitting on their hands and sitting back and watching it, because you can sit back and watch it as well. I sit back and watch it as well. Certainly I try to enjoy it and enjoy the ride, but like, once I'm invested in something, I'm like, oh man, like, how can we see more of this? How can they give us more of this as well? But then I'm thinking, like, from their perspective, how am I going to get more people like invested in this so that we can have that, culmination and that thing afterwards where it feels like, yes, this is going well, and a lot of people are still invested and still coming along and whatnot. So that's, sort of why not everyone can do that, because it's like, did Dolph Ziggler or whoever else it is, or Miro or whoever else it is, like, I think certainly they were huge lifts. Certainly, and I think Miro could have kept dragging them in and whatnot. But again, like, where are you going to go with that after that? Like, it is one of those things that it's always like, well, now plans have changed, like, and it's like, well, when are we going to culminate this, and how are we going to culminate this, or whatever else it is, because this is what the fans want, giving people that story, giving them that, those tidbits of saying, no, we are, caring about them. We are giving them something. We are trying to build them. We are trying to go somewhere with them. We're not just, forgotten about them, or we don't care about them, or whatever else it is. So we hear the fans, we see the fans, and certainly some of this can be positive, some of this can be useful, but it's certainly some of it can also be not so useful and certainly toxic as well. So it's keeping it to, a certain cordial kind of sort of state and whatnot, and not complaining too much, just saying, oh yeah, but this is kind of what I want to see, and I hope to see it soon, or whatever else it is. I really enjoy the show, but this is something I still really want to see in the show, whatever else it is. And we're always trying to sit here and say, how can the show be better, and whatever else it is, so it can be the best that it can be, so that everyone can be like that invested in it and going, man, this is one of the best shows, out there. This is one of the best wrestling shows out there. How do we tell more people about this? How do we get it to be seen by more people? How do, we get this roster being filled, like, everyone knows, kind of everyone, and, the rise of this young star, because they could be a star in WWE or whatever else it is, like Jordan, like Hendry, like they could be there. And again, it's not always the best thing for people to be these quote unquote ship jumpers or whatever else it is, but again, it's just one of those real things that is going to happen, no matter if TNA has the relationship with WWE or not. But again, still, like, if you're bringing in people from NXT or bringing people in from TNA to NXT, that is still going to have that feeling of, or that lower expectation somewhat of saying, well, you're only here for a couple of weeks or whatever it is, or a week or whatever it is, so where's the investment there, and why am I going to get caring about this person coming in, even like, especially like a surprise? It's just like, oh, they're here and they're going to challenge for the title. Obviously they're not winning it because there's no build to this. And even when there's a small build to this, like Cora Jade, like, it's like she turned up, now she's, like, she's here, she's having a couple of matches, she's going to win a couple of like minor matches or whatever against some people, and then she's going to challenge Marsha. But it's going to be like, okay, maybe that's an okay filler match or whatever else it is, but it's not a major match. If you bring in somebody else more major and you say, okay, we're going to bring them in and they're going to win for 3 or 4 months or whatever it is, and then they're going to challenge for the title, it might feel a bit more or a bit better, because it feels like they've been here, they've been challenging, they've been consistent. It feels like they're not going too far away, they're a bit more legitimate or whatever else it is. So this will be a bit bigger of a moment to see, whatever it is. Same thing with just bringing in somebody in general. If you're giving that 3 or 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, whatever it is, them winning being, important, them seeming like they're going somewhere and going to achieve something, there's that investment of people to say, okay, they're telling us this guy could be a big deal. Maybe you won't win the title on the first time or whatever else it is. But even if they don't pull the trigger the first time, we've seen that this guy could be a major player, and he might win the belt. Who knows? But again, we're seeing this thing. This guy could be a major player. And if we continue to say, yeah, that guy, he's still got something and we're still invested in him and we'd like to see more of him, that'll be good, because again, they'll see that and they'll feel like, oh man, let's maybe go back to this guy in a few months or whatever else it is, so that, we can do this thing with that person, and see where we go from it and see what becomes of it and see, what we get from it and that sort of thing. So it always is something that can come out of these sorts of things that, you suddenly sees. Like when Nick Nemeth first came in, it was like he lost his first match, but he was sticking around and was doing some stuff, and he was being in that upper main event mostly. He did some tag team stuff with his brother and whatnot, but still he was mostly a singles guy there for a fair bit and doing some upper main card stuff. So it was okay, they're actually investing in this guy and they're actually going to do something with this guy, and he's not just here and gone or a one and done or whatever else it is. We actually can invest in this guy and see what becomes of him. And then he started to get really over and whatnot, and then people were okay, well, we want to see what he can do. And then he became the champion, and throughout that run he really again proved that he could be that top guy and whatnot. But again, not just that, they decided, okay, well, why are we, while we're doing this, we're going to give people something else to invest in, because they might not be as invested in Nick, but they're very invested in Joe. And so we've got to find this culmination for Joe, but we've also got to give this good run for Nick. So they tried to give us a bit of both, a bit of each, and now, this is where we're at. There's certainly a lot of younger stars like Ace Austin and whatnot that haven't been elevated to that level, and people are still interested and have that investment for them. And there certainly will be another star or two here or there in the future. I don't know, that will come in and somebody will go, let's give them a chance, and they'll stick around for a few years or whatever it is, and we'll see how they go and whatnot, and how long that investment will last. Because again, people's investment is only as good sometimes as the company's investment as well. But the company's investment is also sometimes tied to the people, so it's all very cyclical and symbiotic in some ways. So, but yeah, guys, I think we know the most important things are having those guys doing good things and whatnot, not just having to have the belt or whatever. If they're involved in a program and something that they can sink their teeth into, then that's usually good enough as well. Sting was there for a long time. He wasn't champion all the friggin' time, but he was treated like a main man, a big deal, and a lot of other people were there that were treated like a big deal. And that's what you do with these guys that are a big deal, have already been big deals. You bring them in and you say, okay, well, we're going to treat you like a big deal because you are a big deal, and then we're going to have our young guys come up against you, and maybe they're not going to win the first few times or whatever it is, but we're going to try to make them feel like a big deal, like the Hardys. You just had the Rascals versus the Hardys, and the Rascals have won the titles a couple of times or whatever it is, but they're certainly not the legends, the icons that the Hardys are. So just having them being put in there against the Hardys or in that position is making them feel like, man, these guys, there's still some investment from the fans there for these young guys, even against a legendary duo like the Hardys, and when will they get back to that prominence or that promised land? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. And there's other people there that are, and it should be for every division, for the men's division, for the women's division. I'm not just talking about, one division, tag team division, everything. You should always have this, perspective of feeling like, and every division as well, not just saying, within each division, every division should feel, significant in of itself and should feel significant in the picture of the whole company. So sometimes showcasing that tag team division as being the top, or sometimes showing the women as being, they're the most important, or so showcasing that the, whatever else the X division can be like as important as main eventing a pay-per-view or main eventing a TV episode or whatever else it is important as well, because that gives those people, again, that perspective, like, you do care about these guys, and we are going to try to, give them things when we think that they make sense, or, even sometimes when, we just want to see what happens, or, whatever else it is, or the reaction or whatnot, and that sort of thing. So yeah, we've got to keep pushing for the best of the best, and hoping that, we can get the best out of everything. But we can't also just be like negative or toxic or whatever else it is out there. So guys, hope you've enjoyed this one. Hope you will take away those lessons, and hope you will join me again in another one.